In March 2026, OpenAI ran the Codex model on Chromium, the code base that powers Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and half the internet. It came back with 800 critical vulnerabilities, 10,000 high severity bugs, sitting there unnoticed for years. That's the model that you can now use at a relatively good price. There's a few pricing options at the moment for Codex. You've got the free, you've got the Go, and you've got the Plus. Good thing about this is, I will say, is that you get a really good amount of token usage for the Plus in comparison to using Claude Code. What we're going to be going through today is we're going to be comparing the two models, figure out which one will be better for you and which one will be better for specific tasks. If you're watching this, you've been familiar with the Claude Code ecosystem and you already are familiar with OpenAI's ChatGPT. Codex is OpenAI's answer to Anthropic's Claude Code. We're going to go through the automations, the plugins, and some of the stuff that you're going to find when you use this, and you can decide whether this is a good alternative for you. I haven't canceled my Claude Code account, my Anthropic account, but I have added Codex into my stack again. I was a proponent. I think one of my other videos, I said that OpenAI is going to be the MySpace of the AI world, and I still stand by that. However, the competition is getting very strong. I've been building on Claude Code for the last few months. I've built AI receptionist workflow systems, and the interface itself, it can be intimidating if you're new because you still have to be able to understand the security elements of it, where to attach your APIs, all that kind of stuff. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an honest take, not hype, not a takedown, what's actually different, what it means for your money, and whether the switch makes sense depending on what you're building. First, let's be clear about what we're talking about here because Codex has had a few lives. First, the original OpenAI Codex, it was a code completion model and it powered GitHub Copilot, but that's not what we're talking about today. This Codex is a coding agent. It doesn't just complete your code. It opens your repository, reads your code bases, writes functions, runs tests, commits changes autonomously while you're doing something else. It also has the capability of browser control. It has the capability of accessing files in your computer. Let's just have a look at some of the features. You have agents, you have apps, you have Atlas, Deep Research. It has the ability to control files in your desktop, group chats, images, from images 2.0, shopping, study mode, voice with video. OpenAI launched this in May 2005, and by March 2026, 10 months later, 2 million weekly active users. That's a 5-fold increase from January alone. That doesn't happen without something real happening under the hood. And the model powering it right now is GPT 5.5. And the good thing about this is you can choose which model you actually want to use. So let's just open the app now. So this is something that I asked it to build for me just to test it. On the app, you've got plugins with the automation. So if you want to attach things. So I'm just going to show you the comparison because what you're about to see is where Claude still has an edge. You have all your plugins, a lot of the apps that you would need to use. Most of them are here. And if you don't have them in here, you can search them. An example would be Slack. If it's not there, you can just find the GitHub repo and ask for it to download it for you. You also have the skills on here, which is pretty cool. The way OpenAI is marketing this and positioning this is not that it's going to be a developer tool. It's going to be an agent platform. The roadmap includes a super app that combines ChatGPT, Codex, and their Atlas research agent all in one system. So you get browser control with Codex, and it has the capability to go through Atlas and perform tasks for you. In comparison to using the Claude Code plugin for browser control, it just seems like it's a little bit more intuitive and it performs actions in more of a seamless way. However, you also have the capability to add Playwright, which is a Playwright CLI, which is also going to give you the capability to use a browser. So they're not just building a tool, they're building a full infrastructure. They just added their exclusivity deal with Microsoft, which means Codex is now available at any enterprise, any cloud, any platform. And that's a very specific, deliberate move. Here's what I actually think, and I'm going to say that might surprise you. I still use Claude Code. I'm not switching tomorrow because Claude Code has a few things that Codex doesn't, and Claude Code still does a few things a little bit better. What I found was mostly surrounding design and the broader Anthropic ecosystem, the MCP servers, the Claude Code CLI, the way it integrates into a full agent setup. Codex hasn't gotten there yet. However, I would not be surprised if they get there quite quickly. And what I'm building at Build and Bloom, that depth still matters. Codex is better at pure coding generation. Claude is better when you need an agent that reasons across a complex system. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to just show you a quick comparison of what I was able to build just with one prompt. So this one took a little bit of reiteration. So I was like, I'm doing a demo, create me an interactive Mac OS UI. And it built it. It took about 5 minutes in order for it to complete it. And it built it wrong because it was accessing a different file. The good thing about this is if you have a business file that you use and you generally have everything encompassed in that business file, I'll give you an example. This is a good example, is that I have all these specific files and folders in my specific workspace where I find things that are related to my business, which is any scripts, workspaces, assets, all that kind of stuff. It's all found within that one specific file. Codex has the ability to access that if you just tell it, okay, cool, I want you to access this file. So here's an example. It was working on a wrong file. So I was like, it worked on an incorrect file when I started this. So I said, let's use the Build and Bloom file, which is the file I keep everything for my business, and said, don't touch the other one. This is a separate new one. I just want you to start all over. It is not good to cross-mix this. I probably should have done this a little bit better. But for the sake of the demo, I asked it to build me a HTML Mac OS-like build. And to be fair, it's a pretty good build. It isn't as interactive as what Claude builds you. This is where you can kind of see the difference between Claude Code and Codex. Now, if we look at what Claude was able to build us, it only took one prompt, where the other one did require me to reiterate on the prompt. So if your prompting is better, you go through the planning steps and you go through the planning modes, you would be able to get a better output. But I just wanted to one-shot this. So this is a one-shot prompt. Let me see what it could do. And comparing the two, the design is better. It just looks nicer. In fact, the one that Claude generated me had a full terminal, a working terminal. It's a full working, I can click through the Finder, I can click through the Safari, and it's a full, pretty well created system with a calculator. The calculator obviously doesn't work because it was just meant to be a demo. And as you can see, if you even go through the notes, it is a pretty impressive system. So this is where I think the biggest differences will come through. However, you also do have the capability of doing most of the things that the Claude application would be able to do, which is like automations. You'd have to set a cron timer in order for it to do that. What I found about this is it actually generated me the cron timer without me actually asking it to. So which is, again, the intuitive element of Codex. However, you could do the same thing on your Claude, which will be your routines. The difference between Codex and the Claude application is the Claude application now gives you the capability to host it on a cloud. So when your computer is off or when the application is closed, it's still going to be able to run those scheduled tasks and routines. Whereas with Codex, it hasn't put this on a cloud yet. So your computer has to be on and the application has to be on. If the application is not on, you're not going to be able to run any of these automations. Here's the thing. If you're a business owner or you're someone who's never used an AI coding tool before, Codex is an amazing entry point because of its capabilities and its ease and its intuitiveness. The free tier removes every excuse. And if it's genuinely useful for 80% of what your business needs, then you go to the higher tier. OpenAI knows exactly what they're doing with the pricing. The pricing is the most attractive thing about Codex at the moment, and the usage limits as well. Even though this is a very simple demo and it was a one-shot prompt, it would give you a little bit of an idea of the difference between the two. However, I do also think that Codex would give you a little bit of a cleaner code. If you're a brand new user, for us to give you a total honest take, Codex is a little bit more user-friendly, it's less intimidating, and it's a really good entry point for you to start playing around with these agents and connecting these systems and learning how to communicate with this ecosystem and infrastructure. It would be easier to start building out a AI ecosystem or AI system using Codex. So it generally just depends on what you want to use it for, how do you want to use it, and to what level. Are you an entry level, or are you just dabbling, or do you just want to try and learn how to use this stuff? In terms of ease of use, its intuitiveness, and the interconnection between plugins and applications, I tend to think that Codex is a better alternative. Pricing is very attractive. The quality that you're actually getting, its ability to review code, its ability to understand unfamiliar code bases, ability to write code, debug and fix problems, and automate tasks is really good. And ability to determine and sift out files based on just verbal language is also quite impressive. If you're a business owner or you're someone who's never used an AI coding tool before, Codex is an amazing entry point. If you enjoyed this video or you found some value in it, do like, subscribe, and join our school.com, where we share a bunch of these tools and workflows, and to stay updated on anything AI related.